Hi, I'm Kathy from Software Solutions, and I'd like to, in this video, just take you through an application that Microsoft provides with the Office 365 suite called Microsoft To Do. In order to help organize our time, you might find this Microsoft To Do app of value. You'll see it when you go into Outlook for desktop. On the left-hand side, you see a button to go into the mail, to the calendar, to people, to folders, and to notes. And you may see this To Do button. If you don't, go into More Apps and simply request to see the To Do option, which is what I've done, and that's why it's showing on my list. If I right-click it, I can actually unpin it. And if I go back into my apps, I can actually scroll down and say that I want to add my To Do application to the left-hand side of my Microsoft Outlook. Now, not only is the Microsoft To Do app part of your Outlook, it's also something you can get access to through a web browser if you go into your app launcher. If you go into your app launcher, you'll see To Do, and if you don't, just explore all your apps until you do see the To Do app. I'm going to go through the web version of To Do, but it's exactly the same as the Outlook version of To Do. The To Do app is designed for you to keep a track of tasks that you have to do regarding your work and or your personal life. It lets you set up tasks with a due date, a breakdown into checklist items, what needs to be done, allows you to set reminders, attach files, and keep notes, and even allows you to share your list with other people. So let's have a look at the To Do application. On the left-hand side, I'm seeing a number of views, and I'm going to start with, say, All. Now, All holds the number 23 for me, so that means I'm seeing all the tasks, and there's 23 of them. I can hold the Control key and move my mouse wheel backwards, and that will make things smaller, or hold the Control key and move your mouse wheel forward to zoom in. So zoom in and zoom out to a level that's comfortable with you. I'm zooming in so you can see as much as possible. Now here I can see a number of tasks that are actually coming from my Microsoft Planner. So it incorporates my planner into my To Do. I also see further down flagged emails where I've right-clicked or I've clicked the flag and actually flagged those emails. I also see tasks I've added in, and also I can see project plans, etc. So there's a number of things showing in my All folder. But if I actually go to my day, then I'm only seeing 10 items that appear in my today list. If I go to important, then I'm only seeing items that I've marked as important, and you can see that with the little star on the right hand side. I can also go into my planned folder, and these are planned for today, these were planned for earlier, and I can scroll down and see things that are planned for later. And again, this is a combination of emails I've flagged, tasks I've physically added, and tasks that are in my planner app that have been brought through to here. So I'll go back to All. If I want to hide the navigation pane on the left-hand side entirely, they call this little button a hamburger. And so if I click this, I'll actually collapse my navigation pane on the left-hand side. And now my focus is entirely on all the tasks that I have in my To Do. But if I hit the hamburger again, I can bring my navigation pane back up again. So you do have this hamburger to show and hide the navigation pane. Something I'll be showing you later also is how you actually create these lists here, and that way you can file things that you've got to do into various specialized custom lists so that not everything is chucked into the one list. You can actually organize them into different lists. Now, as far as adding a task, you can pretty much add a task in any of these views. I can see add task here in the All view, but I can also see that it's available, not in all of these views, but I can see it's also in the task view, but I can also see it's in the planned view and in the important view. So there's a variety of views in which you can add a task. I'm just going to start with my day, which is at the very, very top, and I'll click this option here to add a task. So one task I have to do is actually create a document that clearly explains the differences between the sort of applications we can use for organising our time. So what is the difference between the to-do app, the planner app, the list app, the project for the web app, different apps. So I'm going to add a task to explain time management apps. Let's just start with that. And I'll press enter. So there it is there. Now if I click it, I can get into the details here about that app. Also notice, just before I go any further, that when I actually click to add a task, you've also got some buttons here. Now these buttons specifically are designed to add a due date to a task, add a reminder that pops up and reminds you you're supposed to do the task, and also allows you to create a recurring task. So I just wanted to give those a little bit of airtime. But if I click on this particular program, this particular task here, on the right hand side, I can break that task down into steps. Now in other applications that I've covered in videos like Planner and Lists, these are called checklist items. So in to do, it's actually called add a step. So I need to add a step that compares MS lists to MS planner to MS to do to MS project. Actually, let me just put P for W, project for the web, and MS project. So those are a number of applications that I need to compare. So that's 5, and that's why I'm seeing here 0 of 5 showing. And you can add as many steps as you want to. Now it's added to my day, but I could actually say, no, don't add it to my day. I can remove it from my day and choose where else I'd like to add it. So you can take it away and you can add it just by clicking. If I want a reminder, I'll simply click this option and say, look, I really need to be reminded to do that tomorrow. And it says 9 a.m, so I'll set exactly what time, pick a date and time. I do want it to be tomorrow, which is the 1st, but I want to be reminded, say 8 a.m. And so I'll save that. So that's when it's going to pop up and remind me that I need to explain time management apps. The due date, I want to give myself to the end of the week. So I'm going to pick a date here and say, look, I need to have till the 4th. And so I'll save that. So I can pick a due date. If it was a repetitive task once every week or once every fortnight or once every month, I would go for this option here. But it's not a repetitive task, it's a one-off. Now I can also pick a category, and as I look through this list here, these are the categories I typically have in my Microsoft Outlook. So to me this is training preparation, so I'm going to choose that particular category. It's also part of training, so I'll choose 2 categories. So I'm seeing the 2 of them here, but I'm also seeing the 2 of them here. And that's all I want, so I'll click back on another option. Now I can add files, so I'm going to add a file. I've got a particular Word document that I'd like to add, so I'm just going to go into a project for the web, and I'm just going to go into notes, and I'm just going to choose this document here. And so I've added an attachment. You can add as many files as you like. I'm also going to add a note. Think about what would make you choose one app over the other. So that's the approach I'd like to take. So I'm going to make a note of that. And that's basically the information I want to record against that particular task. So this button here is used to hide the detail view, so I can hide it. And if I want to see it, I simply click on the task and it brings it up. It tells me it was created today, and I've also got a trash can here if I decide actually I want to delete that task. Now if I scroll up to the top, I can also hit this option here, which basically marks it as important, which will add it to my important view, which has currently got 6 items, but by me clicking this, I've now got 7 items in my important list. If I was to click this option here, it would be my way of saying it's actually complete, which it's not. So I don't want to click that. So I'm just going to hit this button to hide the detail view. So anything marked as important is going to have this star on the right hand side, and you can click it to remove the importance and click it to add the importance. But the To Do app is part of Outlook. It's really a step up from tasks, which we've always had in Outlook, and it's also part of your app launcher and your suite of applications that you can use with Office 365. So that task has been added both to My Day and it's also been added to important. So that highlights the fact that a task could belong to more than one view. It's something I want to deal with today, but it's also something that's also important if I want to narrow my focus down to just the important things at this point in time. In addition to being part of my day and being important, you'll also see, because I added a reminder, that it will become part of my planned view as well. If I go into the planned view and perhaps collapse today, I can see tomorrow I plan to explain the time management apps. So this one task is appearing in planned because I had set a reminder, and I can actually see the reminder also tomorrow. It appears there. Also, I can see that there is a file attached, and also here I can see there's a note. So you can actually see when it's due. It's got 5 checklist or steps in it. It's part of my day, and it's also got a couple of labels attached. So there is some information just in that row underneath the actual title of the task. So this task will fall into my day important because I made it important, planned because I set a reminder. It'll also appear in all. So it'll appear in a number of views. Now, another thing that I want to show you is when you're in My Day and some of these other views, there are list options just to the right of the heading. And if I went into the list options, and particularly this here, I can see I've just got one option, and that is I can print this list. I can also include to print the notes and or to print the steps that are part of the list as well. So that's a very handy option to be able to print your list of things that you want to or plan to do today. Now let's say I want to mark off some items as having some steps complete. Let's go into develop strategies and plans, for example. Maybe I have successfully completed the formulating of strategies and plans. So I give this a click and I get a lovely little chime. A strike through appears, a solid circle with a tick appears, and also I can see 1 out of 2 steps are now complete. If later on in the day I complete analyze the business organisation, I can mark number 2 off, and so those 2 steps are complete. But it doesn't mark the task as complete just because I've completed those 2 steps. If I want to mark the task as complete, I'll just hit this top option, and now the entire task is completed. What it does is it drops off the My Day list because it's no longer part of my day, and appears in the completed list. And so in the completed list, I can see here that I've actually finished today this particular task. You can see the date and time that different things were completed. Now, as far as sorting and grouping lists of tasks, you can do this in a number of views. Let's go back to My Day because that's probably where you'll spend most of the time, is sorting out what you're going to do today. The sort option is here, and if I click this option, I can sort by importance. If I sort by importance, the important ones are at the top and the ones that are not important are towards the bottom. If I sort by due date, then of course it's sorted by the date that it's due. But also I can sort alphabetically, which means that it's actually sorting them now alphabetically by the name of the task. And if I hit this drop down here, I can sort in descending or ascending order. So now I've got A to Z, but if I was to click this again, I've now got Z to A. So you can easily sort by hitting this button by whatever topic. I can sort by creation date, for example, and again I can sort in reverse order, which is things I made today, and so on. So you can easily sort, and I can easily hit this cross to remove any sorting that I've got influencing my list. Now, in addition to sorting, you've also got grouping. If I click the group option, I can group by categories. So it really is worth using your categories because it gives you the power to sort by your categories. So this is under the category training, this is under the category training preparation, and these objects here do not have a category assigned. So I may very well go through and actually assign a category so that I can group my list more intelligently. But if I want to remove the group, I'll simply hit this X here, and it simply removes it. Now I like to organise my tasks also into lists. Some of my tasks are business related, so I put them into this list. But if they're personal, I'll put them in this list. But if they're specifically to do with professional development, I'll put them in this list. And if they're specifically to do with course development, I'll put them into this list. So I actually want to move this task, explain time management apps, into my course development. So I literally drag it and I drop it, and my 4 items that I have in course development will then increase to 5 items. I don't lose it off my list because it's still something I have to do today, but it now also appears in this list, which is part of my course development list. Now, how do you create a list? This little option here is the easiest way to create a new list. So I'll click this, and then I'll be able to type a name for this new list. So let's say I need to create a list that's to do with marketing. And I'll press enter, and then my list will appear here, marketing. Now what I want to do is move marketing into a specific group. So your tasks sit inside of lists. Your lists can sit inside of groups. So for example, I have a group called Kathy Barker, and there's 3 lists within that. But marketing is to do with software solutions. So I'm going to drag marketing and I'm going to drop it under business and put it inside of the group software solutions. In fact, I'll drag it onto software solutions, and it becomes part of, or just under software solutions, and it becomes part of software solutions. If I drag business up, I can put it above marketing because maybe I prefer them in alphabetical order. So now I can collapse software solutions just with this chevron. In fact, I can collapse any of these groups. So I, in fact, have 3 groups. And you can create a new group just by hitting this button here. So let's say I just do a testing group. So this is now another group, which I can collapse, and so now I have 4 groups. If I expand them all, let me just expand that, expand that, expand that, and expand this. Within my test group, I can then add a new list. So I'll go new list, and I'll just say list 1, and I'll add another list and just call it list 2. So I've made list 1 and list 2, but they're sitting outside of the group. So to make them be part of the group, I will simply drag, as it says here, drag here to add a list. So I'm just dragging list 1, dragging list 2, and now they belong to testing group, which I can collapse and I can expand. So then all I've got to do is simply add tasks or drag tasks into an appropriate list with an appropriate group. Now, what else can you do with lists? If I right-click a list, I could delete it. If I right-clicked a list, I could print it, as we discussed earlier. I could even duplicate the list. I can remove it from this group, either by hitting this option or simply dragging it out of that group. I can move it to a different group, or I could simply just drag it to a different group. But more importantly, I can share the list with people. If I share the list with people, it will create an invitation list link, which means that anyone in your organization with that link can join and edit the list. So you're collaborating on the list. Let's create an invitation link. Now I'm going to invite some people. I'm the owner. Now I'm going to invite via email. And here's the email here. And then all I do is send it out to different people, this software solutions person and this software solutions person. So you can send it out to as many people as you like, and then those people will simply click this link and that will join that list, and they'll be able to start editing and changing items in that list. So I would just hit send. Or I could copy a link and it's copied to the clipboard, and then I could go to an appropriate document or whatever I needed to add the link to, and then people quite simply who have that link will be able to access and share your list. This little indicator here, this little symbol here, means that I've actually shared that list. Sharing is also managed by this little button here, which also allows you to share or allows you to, again, continue to send the link, copy the link, manage the access, there's the link there, so on and so forth. If I want to get rid of this group, I'll right click and I'll simply ungroup the list. Then I'll right click and I'll simply delete this list. And I'll delete this list. And so it's easy enough to delete groups and delete lists. Now what I'd like to do is go back to some of my tasks. Let's go back to this task, for example. If I right click a task, I can get lots of options. I can remove it from my day. I can remove it from importance. And I can mark it as complete. And we've looked at those things, but this is another method, the right click method. I can say it's due today, due tomorrow, or even remove the due date entirely. I can create a new list from this task, and I can move this task to any one of the lists that I currently have, or copy that task to somewhere else, or delete that task. Some of the settings that you can change with regards to your to-do, let's go into this little settings button here, for example. What we can do here is we can change to dark mode and change back to light mode. Go into your to-do settings. If I go into my to-do settings, I can sign out and perhaps sign in with a different account. If I have a look at some of the options here, I can turn on or turn off the confirmation before I delete a task. I can also add new tasks on top. I can move start tasks to the bottom, so you can drag tasks up and down quite easily. If you don't like the sound that plays when you complete a task, you can turn it off. And if you don't want to see the menu when you right click a task or a list or a group, you can also say turn the show right click menus off. You can turn off any reminders, and you can show tasks that seem important in my day or not. And there's the night mode again. Down here, important, planned, all, completed, assigned to me, those are all showing because they've been turned on. If you turn them off, then they will disappear from the navigation pane. You can also connect to apps like Planner, which is why I saw a lot of my Planner tasks actually showing in my to-do. But if I didn't want that to be the case, I would simply turn it off. And I can also turn off the fact that any email I flagged in Outlook does not appear in my to-do. So I can make those not appear in my to-do just by turning them both off. I will get notification via email. And also if you want to get support, etc., those options are there. So there are some settings you can turn on as well. I think the last thing I want to look at is if you do have lists like marketing and I want to change the theme, you can hit these three dots here, the list options menu. And what you can do is change the theme. And I can say, look, I want the marketing to have sort of a purple tone. So that's got a purple tone to it. Whereas if I look at business, that's got a blue tone. Course development's also blue. Professional development's green and personal's purple. So I can actually change the colours. Project management, though, is red. So some of the lists that you create, you can change the theme. There's other things like renaming the list. You can do that as well. You just use these three dots at the top here to rename a list, to delete a list, to print a list, to remove it from a specific group. So that pretty much explains the To-Do app, which is built into your app launcher and part of your Office 365. But also if you go to your Outlook and you go to and add the To-Do option, I can use my control and mouse wheel to zoom back. I can now use the To-Do option, the To-Do app, within my Outlook to organise my time and organise my day. It is primarily for organising yourself, but as you saw, we can share lists with other people, and so you can be specific as to what you want to share with others. I do hope that this information has proved of value, and you may find that in your organising of your day and your time that you have a place for the To Do app, and this app I hope explains what it's capable of. Take care.